How's it going, backpackers? Dave here with Off Grid. I'm into backpacking, hiking, camping, and gear. And I'm going to do another Speculation Nation video for you guys today because my last one went over as like gangbusters. I had a lot of positive feedback, so to speak, for the last one that I shot, which was should you buy the Danderson X-Mid Series tent? And I thought that that was, for the most part, overwhelmingly positive, but I had some die-hard fans rip me a new one in the comments below, so I figured, why the hell not? Let's just do another one here. And in today's crosshairs, I've got Hyperlite Mountain Gear. Is it a fan favorite for a reason, or is it just another big bust? Let's get right into it. I'm gonna have all of the big stuff for you today, like I usually get into, all the tech specs, the nitty gritty of all the price points and materials and things of that nature. So let's just dive right into it. I'm gonna basically split this video up into a few different parts here. I'm gonna go over three of their biggest areas, so to speak. So they've got, for the most part, a an accessories kind of section that kind of like rounds out packs and shelters, like things kind of on the side, and then they've got a new addition, which is a quilt, which I'll touch base on for like, a microsecond, and then I'll talk about their shelters really quick, and then towards the end of the video, I'm going to get into the coup de grace, or the primetime show here, which is talking about their packs, which is what they're most famous for, and then I'm going to round it all out at the end, talking a little bit about some of the other stuff that's kind of like outside of just what the products that they have to offer. So let's get right into it. The first of which that I have pulled up here is kind of funny. They call it the goat tote here, so we're getting into the accessories right now. Goat tote. I don't know what you guys spend for tote bags. I'm used to spending no more than like $1 for like a cloth one, but you can get a nice fancy one from Hyperlite here, and their 20 liter, which is their smallest option, is about $119 off their site. That's kind of hilarious. I just would never spend money on something like that. Let's get into like the rest of their accessories though real quick. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the first two areas that I was mentioning, which is like shelters, quilts, and accessories. They have, as far as their accessories goes, in my opinion, it's kind of more standard. I think a common theme that you're going to find throughout the entirety of this video, I'm probably going to mention it multiple times, is the fact that everything is upper end, meaning everything is really expensive from these guys. However, kind of going through their accessories, they have stuff sacks, kind of standard. I think they're still doing a lot of Dyneema stuff, which is starting to get outdated. You kind of have to switch over to Ultra nowadays, but Dyneema is still around. They have a couple of different, like a chesty pocket or a pocket for your camera, like a DSLR camera, things of that nature, if you like to do that stuff. Like I mentioned, dry sacks, stuff sacks. And as far as like, the price points goes on those, it's pretty similar to others in the space, like Light AF or Bennett Hilltop packs. Dyneema stuff sacks are going to be ultra light, but also ultra expensive. And I think for the most part, they're somewhat on par, but it's still going to be really expensive over like something that you can get at like Walmart or whatever, some other kind of like dry sack. So anywhere within like the $30 to $60 range, depending on what you're going for, but nothing too crazy from an innovation standpoint other than their pods. That's literally the name that they're calling them, which is, those are actually pretty decent. They're pretty cool looking, just because of the fact that they're kind of contoured or shaped to match the inside of a pack. So they kind of have a rounded edge and then they have a flat edge, so you really know like where it goes in your pack, and you can stack them pretty easily. So those are pretty cool, but also pretty expensive at the same time. All right, let's get rid of the accessories here. I don't want to spend too much time on that, and get into the only option that they have currently as I'm recording this for a quilt, and it's a 40-degree quilt for a whopping $500 and about 14.38 ounces, which is not really ultra light. I mean, it's definitely competitive, but it's not lighter than anything else that's out there on the market. I spent about $215 on my 20-degree custom UGQ quilt. So $500 on a 40-degree really doesn't make that much sense to me at all. And it doesn't really matter what size you get either. Short, regular, large, they're all going to be $500, which doesn't make any sense either because there's more material to make one over the other. But that one really doesn't make any sense to me at all. From any standpoint, I can't see any other kind of technology in it. I'm not even sure if it has hydrophobic down in there or not either. But let's just move right along here and get into another hilarious section for me personally. And that is going to be their tents. So if you're a solo hiker or backpacker and you're looking for that 1P tent, you're not going to really find it. The best option that you have, they kind of start at a 2P and they're all pyramid in design, which is kind of weird. You don't see a ton of those out there either. The only option that you really have is to get sort of like their 2P structure tent and then get a 1P inner bug net insert, which kind of like cuts it in half. So you have a ridiculous amount of vestibule space on the other side and then a bug net inner. But if you combine both of those up, I think it's somewhere around the $500 range, which, you know, and I forget what the weights are on these. I think, so I'm looking right now at just the insert, and the insert is around 14 ounces. And then if you go with just the outside, I think this is geared more towards like your winter camping, you know, people who don't really want to have a bug net. If you're out there in the snow and whatnot, it's probably a really good design for it. But for the majority of the backpackers that go out there, they're going to have some sort of bug net with it as well. So the inner, I said, is 14 something ounces, and then the outer rainfly is somewhere around 18.7 ounces. So you combo those up, and you're I don't know, you're over a little bit over 2 pounds. So for $500, 2 pounds, just go Z packs at that point, and you'll save a lot of weight for not that much more money. Actually, I think this is closer to $1,000. Like the fly is somewhere around $800, and the bug net was, what did I say it was? Like $400, something like that, something dumb like that. Yeah, just forget about the tents. They really don't make much sense for your average backpacker. If you want a bomb-proof kind of going out in the winter style, and you can't even do like a hot stove with this, so I really don't know what that kind of fits. They also have, I think, a tarp too. They have a tarp, they got a ground cloth, some stakes, pretty standard stuff. Oh, hey guys, Future Dave here. I recognized that I shot my video for the Hyperlite stuff a little bit ago, and then within the matter of, I think, like 1 to 2 weeks, they came out with 2 new products, so I figured I'd do a quick update on those here. The first of which is, instead of the 40-degree quilt, they also now have a 20-degree quilt. It's $100 more than their 40-degree quilt, and it's still not even super competitive in the price point category. It's about $600 for their 20-degree quilt versus their 40-degree quilt for $500. I'm sorry that I'm laughing, but it's just kind of ridiculous as a price point for a quilt. So I'm not going to talk too much about that one. The other one that I want to talk about, though, is, and I mentioned this in the video, that they don't have your typical A-frame style tents. Well, guess what? They just released recently their very first A-frame style tent. It is very reminiscent of the Z-Packs Duplex in overall size. It's a little bit smaller in overall footprint size than the Duplex, and they're going with a somewhat similar price point. It's about $700. So it's kind of equally ridiculous. I think with the specs that I was able to kind of like pull up and look at, I think that the Duplex in general was just a little bit, I think it's a little bit longer. Like this one comes in at 90 inches long. The Duplex is, I think, around 100 inches. And then the overall width, I think, is somewhere about the same. It's about 48 inches for both. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's very similar. And then I think the only other thing to call out here is the overall weight, which I think both of them don't include the weight of like stakes or anything like that. And this one comes in at just a shade under 24 ounces. And I think the Duplex is just a few ounces less. It might be somewhere around that 21 ounce mark. So for the same exact price, similar materials, get yourself a Duplex, and it just, you know, it's a little bit bigger than this guy here. I think the only difference is, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that the Hyperlite tent, which is called Unbound, their 2P model, by the way, is one of the biggest differences I saw is that they have a zipper pull on their doors, which Z-Packs doesn't have. I think they have the toggle system, and that could be that few ounces of savings there. But I mean, if you're going to shell out $700, you might as well go for the lightest thing that you could possibly get. So yeah, equally ridiculous there. All right, all that out of the way, you know, not really wowing me yet. So I was really just thinking to myself, why is this so popular? Why is this the go-to pack now? So let's get into the packs real quick for you guys. So they have somewhere up to a 30 liter all the way up to an 85 liter plus is what they're talking about. And they have different styles. I think they might have one for like skiing, snowboarding. They may even have one for mountaineering. I'm not 100%. But they do have at least 2 or 3 different models specific to backpack. I can't really talk about any of the other types of models because I'm not into that space, so I can only really focus on the backpacking specific ones. And I'm not going to talk about, they have a day pack, they have a fanny pack. I'm not going to talk about those either. Let's just focus on the 2 that are the most popular that I've seen in the backpacking space. The first of which is the Southwest, and I think the second one is the Junction. So let's look into those real quick. I'm looking up the Junction right now, and there's nothing that's really wowing me here, folks. You know, they're using Dyneema. They're using a little bit thicker Dyneema than your standard, and they have a 2400 and a 3400, which just relates to the overall cubic inches, which most people can't really do, and I don't really know what the conversion is either. But let's just pull up the 3400 because I think that is somewhere around a 50 liter. I could be wrong. It's hard to find. Let me see. Okay, yeah, 55 liters is what they're saying. But this pack, and I think the Southwest is pretty similar to the Junction. I think what's different is kind of like the materials that they use for that outer pocket on the back side, and then the side pockets too. I could be wrong on that, but basically it's your standard roll down top closure, and it's just made out of Dyneema. So the Junction 3400, which is a 55 liter, goes for about $380, which again is sort of like Z-Packs. I'm gonna throw out Z-Packs because that's probably the closest from a price point perspective. But the overall weight of this pack goes up to about 2 pounds, right around 2 pounds, depending on which size you get. I'm not 100% sure if they have internal stays that are standard with it or not. Oh yeah, right here, it says it right here. So they are aluminum stays that you can remove, and they're basically just like individual ones that slide out, and they just kind of look like 2 posts that are contoured a little bit, and I think you can actually mold it with your hands. So it does have some sort of internal structure, but it's not going to be ridiculously stable. It's just going to help you, shift the weight from your shoulders down to your hips a little bit more. So $380, 55 liter, made out of Dyneema, a little bit thicker, obviously, because it weighs a little bit more at 2 pounds. So 2 pounds for $380, I'm not really buying it. Let's get into the Southwest real quick, because I know that's the other one that a lot of people end up buying. Yeah, so the difference on this one is that it just has that harder material instead of like a fishnet material on that back side. It looks like the side pockets are the same type of material, or very similar, but the back pocket is very similar to the side pockets on the Junction. They just kind of continue that all the way around the front, so a little bit more durable. I think this one might be the one that is the most popular. I could be wrong, but I think if you're going for durability, this is the one to get. So they have a 2400, a 3400, and a 4400. Let's pull up the 3400 again, which is the 55 liter, kind of like the most standard style. Similar price point, exactly the same, $380. 55 liter, can haul up to 40 pounds, and it weighs in at, again, right around that 2 pound mark. So, what are my takeaways on this pack here? I don't really understand it. I think it is an ultra high price point. not an ultra light as far as like the weight category goes. So I really don't understand how that price point is justified. So it got me thinking, there's got to be some reason as to why this is popular in the space, right? It's got to be, you know, like the durability is obviously there with the thicker Dyneema, so it'll probably last you a really long time. But I have also heard that the comfort is not really there either. So I've heard from more than one source that the shoulder straps are actually rather thin, especially if you're reaching the upper limit of the overall weight that you can carry in the pack. I've heard that the straps really don't do it, like they really don't cut it on this pack. Other than that, is there any other type of technology that's particularly great in the materials that they use or the construction overall of the pack? No, not at all. So I really don't understand why this pack is so popular. Again, 2 pounds for right around the $400 mark, whereas you go to Z-Packs and a comparable pack would be something like the Arc Blast, which is a 55 liter, can haul somewhere about the same, about the 30-pound mark, and has carbon fiber stays. Probably not as durable as the aluminum stays, but it gets it off of your back, which this is kind of like a back sweating machine. And the Z-Packs pack is right around a similar price point, but the overall weight is somewhere right under like 20 ounces without the hip belt pockets. With the hip belt, but not with the pockets. And it's right around the 20 ounce range. So you're saving close to 12 ounces right there off of that pack in a similar price point. So, and I'm just kind of like showing you the trends here, folks, that, you know, at one point in time, the go-to pack was the Arc Blast because it was ultra light, but it was also on the upper end of the spectrum. It was like the thing to have. And now all of a sudden people have shifted away from that pack and are going to Hyperlite. And I really don't understand why. You're spending just about the same, but the overall weight of the pack is significantly higher. So to me, let me know in the comments down below what the reasons are. If you have this pack, if you use this pack, especially if you have it over like a Z-Packs pack, why is it better? What's the reason that, you know, makes this price point for that weight justified? I want to hear all about it because I really don't understand it. I see a lot of backpackers using this pack and going over to this pack, and I really don't understand, especially when you can get something like a 3F UL gear pack that weighs just about the same, not framed, but just about the same weight for somewhere around a third of the price. So really don't understand that with their packs. I don't get it at all. So I know there's going to be a lot of haters out there. There's going to be a lot of people crushing me in the comments down below saying, you don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you get the pack before you actually diss it? And you know what? This is just one humble man's opinion. You've got your opinion. I've got mine as well. And for some of these products, I just really don't understand why they are popular in our backpacking and hiking community and in this space. The last thing I'm going to talk about here right now quickly is going to be about, you know, stuff that's not directly related to the products. And what I mean by that, there's a couple of different points I want to make. I look like, you know, Nixon right there. But a couple of different points that I want to make here. First of which is going to be real quick, and it's going to be to talk about their like where their stuff is made. Some people care about that, other people don't. I think a lot of it is designed in America, but they make almost all of it in Mexico. For the Hyperlite stuff, there's a lot of different companies that do that. Outdoor Vitals does that as well. And there are some companies that just really don't want to focus on like in-house workers, seamstresses, things of that nature. They want to focus in other areas. So that's completely fine for me. I don't really, you know, care as much, particularly if the price point comes down, which this company doesn't do. But other companies do that to provide a decent product at a lower price point. Other people do care about that. They want to support local cottage companies, and there's like a ton of those that are out there as well. You got Waymark, Hilltop Packs, Light AF, UGQ, and the list goes on and on. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch, but you know, some people feel better about helping out cottage brands that are exclusively made here in America, providing jobs for people here in America as well. And then the second point that I want to get to real quick is going to be the fact that I can't really find that much about the company. A lot of these smaller backpacking companies are all about the community, the family that they build for their company. You can go to an about page, you can see who makes what along the pipeline, and feel like you get to know the company a lot better that way. I had a really hard time finding really anything at all. I still can't find anything off of their site at all. They kind of have like a mission statement, but they don't have a get to know us area. They have a contact page, but there's nothing really specific about like, hey, get to know the team that makes these products. And that I think is a huge miss. I think you can find that for pretty much every other backpacking company that's out there that's popular nowadays anyway. And really wasn't able to find that at all. So it feels very cold, feels very distant, feels like you don't really get to know who's making the products and what they're doing unless you're digging into podcasts or whatever. So the fact that they don't just have that on their site that's easy to find is, you know, it's sort of like a small aside, but, you know, I figured I'd throw that in there as well as something that was kind of just like, well, hey, why don't they have that? But anyway, that's going to do it for this one. For this week, guys, I think the verdict is clear as far as my own personal opinion. I'm going to pass on all Hyperlite stuff. I really don't understand the hype, but you know, obviously there's a die-hard group of people that are out there who use it. So go ahead, light up the comments. Why am I wrong? What is the reason why you like your Hyperlite gear? Or am I correct? I need people who are backing me up, guys, because there's a lot of haters and a lot of trolls out there. So I need people backing me up as to why I am correct in certain areas. So give me some props down below as well, why Hyperlite is just kind of like overblown and kind of overhyped. I'd love to hear that as well. But that's it for this week, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you're headed off grid, make sure you do your research and you make it a safe one. And I'll see you guys on the next one. There are just some companies that don't want to focus on in-house seamstresses. Then there are some companies that just don't want to focus on in-house seamstresses. How come I can't say that word? Seamstresses? Seamstresses. Seamstresses. There you go.